Hey everybody, welcome to 2020. Happy New Year. What a good way to start out a new year is with a tag video. Now, before I get into the tag, I'm going to explain to some of the people that aren't familiar with tags on YouTube, because tags are kind of an old thing that they were real popular 5 or 6, 7 years ago, but they still happen. And what a tag is it's where a video maker makes a video on a subject, okay, whatever the subject matter is, and then they tag another video maker. They usually tag 3, and they tag another video maker to show their version or their opinion or to share their story on that tag. Okay, so, and tagging is really good. It helps build community amongst YouTube. That way, instead of a channel just kind of sitting there on its own, it gets involved with other channels. And it helps for channels to tag each other because, you know, it opens up new doors for YouTubers to see each other's channels and sub each other's channels. Okay, so anyway, getting on to it, I was tagged by Bushcraft Dads. Okay, and the tag is thanks for sharing 5. Okay, thanks for sharing 5. And what this is basically what it's covering is do a video on 5 things you've learned on YouTube. Okay, and now it could be a method, it could be a process, or it could be a product. Okay, and it doesn't necessarily have to be from a video. If you've learned it from a commenter, then you can put it in there. So anyway, here's my 5 items, and I can say this: I've learned a lot from YouTube, and I've learned a lot from commenters. You know, comments are very valuable. Not everybody can make videos, but everybody can make comments, and there's a lot of knowledge in the comments, and you can learn a lot if you'll read them. You know, especially if like whenever I put out a video on my opinion or my methodology on how to do something, I'll get multiple comments on how other people do it, and I pick up a lot of tricks from that. So, anyway, I have 5 items wrote down here that I'm going to go over. So, let's get started. Now, the first tip that I learned came from a channel called Yoper Survival, right? And if memory recalls right, I think his name's Jim. But anyway, if you have a sit-in kayak, like I do, not a sit-on. Most people, when they carry their gear, they will carry it in a dry bag. Okay, that way, if you turn over or your gear falls off, it won't get wet. Now, sometimes people will strap it to the top, but that makes you a little top heavy. So if you want to take advantage of the cargo hold, which has a seal around it, that way, if you turn it back over quick enough, water won't get into your gear. The problem with that is if you use a bag like this, you're going to take the bag and you're going to put it in and you're going to cram it in, wiggle it in, and you're going to wind up with a lot of wasted space inside your cargo hold on each side. So that's when you feel like you have the tendency to just put everything in here. But if you do that, if you don't get the kayak back over, there's a chance some water could get in. So this is the trick that I learned from Jim. All right, you take a garbage bag, an empty garbage bag. All right, you open it up, and then you put it in. All right, put it in. And then you'll take your contents, which it can be whatever the contents of this is. I think this is a 20-liter bag, and you can probably put 40 liters worth of items in here. So what you do now is you just start putting your items in. Let's get you up a little closer here. Maybe you get a better look. Okay. So what you do now is you just start putting all of your items in here. All right. And see, now you can push your items over in to the side. Anything you don't want to get wet. All right. After all of your items are in, and you got it filled up to the max capacity, then all you got to do is just tie it up a little bit, twist it around a few times. I guess you could just twist it around like that and roll it under. Okay, so what you've got now you close it off and you've got this O-ring seal. So normally if you were to turn this kayak over and it would take 1 minute for water to get through the seal, you have now just given yourself like an extra minute. Okay? So ain't that neat? So thank you to Yoper Survival. That's where I learned that little tip from. Very coldy and windy today outside, so you might catch me shouting at the camera when the wind noise picks up. But anyway, everybody's heard of Ray Mears. Okay, Ray Mears had a real popular TV show in the UK, and he's a bushcraft and survival expert. And over in the USA, we weren't lucky enough to have him on our TV, so we catch him on YouTube. So this next is a neat little trick that I picked up from Ray Mears' video on YouTube. He has a YouTube channel. But round wood, big round wood, okay? You can saw it. A lot of times if it's split, you've got sharp edges that'll catch a flame better, allows more oxygen into the fire, and allows you to make feathers if you want to. If you don't have an axe or a machete, if you don't have an axe for splitting or a machete for batoning, how are you going to split wood? Okay. Well, for one thing, dried wood sometimes has cracks in it. You want to take advantage of that. But what Ray's trick is you can split it with a saw. So let me show you how we go about doing that. All right, so what you want to do is you want to find some wood that preferably has a crack in it already. What you want to do is you want to saw halfway down to the crack. Alright, we're down to the crack, so what you want to do now is you want to turn it upside down and give it a hit. Back you up a little bit here. Make sure you're seeing it. Alright. Try it again. Alright, let's try it this way. There you go. And see, this half was already rotten, but this is nice fresh wood. It's a nice split. So see, now you got a nice sharp edge that you can either catch fire or make some shavings. Isn't that cool? Let's try to take this one step further. See if I can do this. What I did is I cut it 1/4 of a way. So let's see if this piece will break off. Nope. I've still got the split. Let's see if I can split it this time. Well, no, let's cut it halfway through. Let's try it one more time. I knew the first part didn't work. We're just out here playing around. Because see, right now we have 2 sharp corners, but if I can get this piece to break in the middle, Matter of fact, let's give it some help. See if that does anything. Nope, didn't work. It just broke completely off. See, I'd always wondered about that. I always wondered if you can baton more than a half off, but as you can see, I've got a half of a log here, and a half of one here, and a half of a one here, and the end of one here. So that's for if you don't have an axe or a baton, and I can thank Ray Mears for that one. So this next tip comes to us from the UK again. Paul Kirkley. Okay, Paul's from the UK, and he is a bushcraft camping expert. A little bit of survival thrown in. He runs a podcast, and he also runs a YouTube channel. And he had a series called Ask Paul Kirkley, where people would email him questions and he would answer them. And he did a video one time on axemanship, and I watched it, and it covered the basics, but he did one little trick on there that I liked, and it's going to take a little bit of explaining as to why it's a handy trick. And this has to do if you're chopping a lot of wood. Okay, so to start with, what is it that normally happens when you're chopping wood? Okay, a lot of times you don't completely chop the piece. So this is going to be something that you're going to do if you're going to be chopping a lot of wood. Okay, so let's get started here. See what we can do. All right. So let's set the wood right here. All right. So let's try to split it with an axe. Okay. All right. Now there you have it. I didn't go all the way through. Okay. Didn't really want to go all the way through, because this is the point of the trick. Now, you would say to yourself normally, you would say, okay, at this point, what you're going to do is you're going to pick the axe up and you're going to slam it down repeatedly until you split. Okay? That's fine and dandy on something this small. Alright? But if you have a big, heavy piece of wood, you'll get wore out. Or if you have a lot of heavy wood, you'll get wore out. So, what you do is you pick up the weight of the wood and you set it on your shoulder. Okay, you let it rest on your shoulder. Now, as it's resting on its shoulder, this axe itself is not that heavy, and for you to come down and split, it depends on the force of your arms, which you're having to put into it. But if you're doing a big heavy log, you're going to let the weight of the log do the split. So you rest it on your shoulder and you throw it down onto the log and let it do the split. So let's try this, see what happens. Didn't work. There you go. And what happened? Nope. It fell off. So let's try that again. It works better too if you land right in the center of the log. Alright, now that's better. I'm right in the center of the log. So let's try this again. Like I say, if it's big and heavy, pick it up, put it on your shoulder, and let gravity come down and do it. Alright, so let's try it again. There you go. Now this is dogwood. Old, hard, dried dogwood. Quite gummy. You can see how it came apart. Very gummy. That's some tough wood right there. Now, like I said, this trick, the reason why I said, like I said, it requires a little explaining. Yeah, if it was this log, just pick it up, pound it up and down. But if it's super big and heavy, oh, get it up on your shoulder and just let it drop down. And you won't be nowhere near as wore out. Your shoulders won't be wore out, your arms won't be wore out. Like if you've been bow sawing all day and you got a pile of wood you want to split, that's the easiest way of doing it. Alright? Let's move on to the next tip. Now for the next tip. Let's say that you're one of the kind of people that you have a ferro rod that you carry with you, but you don't carry a striker. Okay? You use the back side of your knife. You have sharpened the spine. Okay? This next little tip comes from Kelly Harlton, and he is an instructor for Karamat Wilderness Ways up in Canada. Okay? Now, this is kind of neat. Everything under the sun's been done with a fire rod, but I never really thought about this, and he's the only guy I ever saw do this, and he did it on YouTube. So let's say even with the smallest of ferro rods, okay, let's take a look down here at the stump. Let's take a look at my tender here, okay. Now, just in your typical, for instance, people have the tendency to take this and do this, okay. Okay, they tend to move their knife to make sparks, okay. That ain't even making, yeah, see, there you go. That's supposed to be a sharp spine, but that's not a good ferro rod, okay. You want to have the tendency instead to hold the knife and brace it while you're wiggling and wobbling and put pressure up and pull back so that you don't knock the tender everywhere. Well, what he proposed is that you lean the knife, hold the knife steady at an angle, and pull the ferro rod across it. And you can also put your finger to brace the back of it. And see, that's a horrible ferro rod. I hate them. I may have to go get my bigger ferro rod. No, it's actually, it almost started there. I'm going to give you another view of it anyway. I'll keep going with this one ferro rod. I'm going to get you down here a little bit closer so that you can see. That's antifreeze. It ain't what you think it is. Alright, let's see. I'm going to lower you down here just a little bit more so that you can get a grip. Even though this is a horrible ferro rod, this is a good method. This is a very good method. Now that's not as sharp as it could be. Alright, you set it right here and you lean it over. Okay. So I'm not even getting any sparks. Now I went and got a different ferro rod because this is a little bit better of a ferro rod. These little bitty teeny tiny diameter ones, they are pieces of junk. And the only reason that I use this thing is because it came with a Schrade machete. It comes in a little survival kit they give you, and it fits easily into this pouch. This one takes a little bit of effort to get into here, but I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wind up, oh yeah, it'll fit if you force it in. I think I'm going to start carrying this one because this is a little better ferro rod. You honestly can't beat these big 1/2 inch rods, but these are good for carrying on the sheath. And I got you down here a little bit closer to where I can see what I'm doing here. So let's see if we can put some sparks in here without knocking the tender all over the place. Oh, I think I got it going. Okay. Look what that did to the knife. Man. See, that's why I like a dedicated striker. But In a way, I'm glad that it took a while to get this going, because the reason that I'm glad it took a while to get going is because of, did you notice the number of strikes that I had to put on it? And did you notice how little I knocked the tinder around everywhere? Normally when you have that many strikes, by that time you're knocking tinder everywhere. Okay, so if you're going to do this, okay, if you're going to do this, carry a ferro rod with no striker, that's a pretty good method of doing it. I kind of like that. That's pretty cool. Yeah, because it just hold the knife down, brace it, drag that rod across it. You're good to go. All right. That would be the final tip or thing I learned from YouTube, number 5. But I'm going to have a 5 and a 6. Okay. Now, the first I think it was 4 things that I learned from YouTube. I learned from watching videos and from a video maker. This tip I learned from a commenter, and unfortunately I can't remember who the commenter was. Okay, so this was a comment on the video where some of you may have seen where I was like, why hikers should always carry a compass. And I told the story of how a woman was hiking down the trail, and she left the trail for some reason and got turned around and completely lost and couldn't re-find the trail. Now that can be a scary situation, especially at night. A lot of times though, in the woods, a lot of people just don't understand. Some people have experienced and some haven't, but you lose your sense of direction. When you leave the trail and you go in one direction, everything looks the same, unless you've got something like a roaring creek you can listen to, or some sort of a cliff, or some sort of substantial object that you can sight to. If it's all woods and all looks the same, yeah, you can get lost. So, without further ado, most people either carry a fishing rod or at least some kind of a fishing kit with fishing line. Okay, so let's say you're walking along the trail. All right, now not just if you want to leave trail for some reason to look at something or relieve yourself or even set up camp off trail. All right, what you do, put a stick inside your little spool of fishing line where you have a bobber, and just take the bobber and just stick the bobber somewhere, wrap it around to where it's hung up in the tree. Then, as you walk off trail, just feed out some line with you and walk as far as you want. That way, once you're done either relieving yourself or you want to get back to camp, then you just follow along and you just roll yourself back to the trail. Okay? Now, that might not seem, let's see, let's get that out of there. That thing was in there good. Now that might not seem like that big of a deal, or it may seem almost like an insignificant tip, but it's a very important tip, and it's one of those things that you need to pay attention to, because believe me, and it's like Morris Kohansky used to talk about people that was going to freeze. He said, if you don't believe me, it's not me that's going to suffer. Well, believe me, if you leave the trail, there's a potential for you to get lost. And it's more than just suffering. It could lead to death. So take it seriously. And, you know, this ain't a bad idea. You know, I wish I could remember who the commenter was that said this, but it's a really good idea. Okay? Alright, so on to the final thing I learned from YouTube. Remember what I said at the beginning of the video, that I said that it could either be a process, a method, or a product? Now, something that I learned a long time ago, I try to answer all the comments. Okay? Well, a long time ago I did a video on my filming equipment, and I was talking about this and that and the other, and somebody was talking about a slider, and what a slider is it's a thing that the camera slides on mechanically, that it gives you that unusual shot. Okay, kind of like this. But that is a robotic dolly. And they had mentioned something about, they said, you do know that they're making robotic dollies for cameras now, which is very, very cool. And I'm fixing to show you this one. Now, like right now, it's on the hood of my truck. And I thought it'd be cool that someday I'm going to rig up an extra tripod. I thought about bringing that in the woods, because a lot of times people will be doing commentary, or they'll be doing something with a camera moving like that right there, almost like in a professional situation. But anyway, this thing, it's got 3 speeds, and I think, let me change to, oh, it's in 3rd gear. You might have heard the motor. Now this is low speed. This is what I would be using. It doesn't seem like a huge difference, but the motor is a lot quieter. Now the thing about a slider is a slider is on rails. But with this, you can bend those 2 wheels like I just did. And it goes in a radius. How cool is that? So let me bend them even further. And let's play with this just for a minute. Now I'm playing with it to show you what it'll do, you know, before I actually show you what it looks like. The depth perception of it might be kind of hard for you to tell. Okay, let's turn it like this. This will give you a better explanation of how it's going to look like when it does a radius, okay? That might be too much of a radius. Let's turn it right over here. Now let's switch directions. Let's see if I can switch directions here. There you go. And see, this would be good for product reviewers if they wanted to put like a knife or a watch or a flashlight on the table, and then they could run this thing around. Don't think of this as a product endorsement, because it is not, okay? It's just something neat that I discovered from a commenter telling me about it. Now, what it's described as is when they sell these things, they're sold as what's called a motorized camera dolly. And this is what it looks like. It's a little 3-wheel device, and it's got the 1/4-inch screw in here for all cameras, okay? And it's got 3 wheels. These are freewheeling right here. They've got like rubber O-rings, and this is the motorized part. It's got 3 speeds, and you adjust it right here with this button, right? And then it'll either go in a straight line like this, or you can bend these wheels and make it go into a radius. And I think they bend in either direction. See? And then it comes with a little remote control that has a start, stop, reverse, and a speed change. Alright? So let's ease down here, and I'm just going to let you actually look at it here. Alright? Let's take a peek at it right here. This thing, it's just so... Oh, now what I was saying is this not a product endorsement. This one is ANNSM. It's some Chinese name, but this exact dolly is sold under about 5 or 6 names, and I'm sure it's all made in the... Alright, let's stop that and see if I can reverse it. Yeah, you can reverse it with this thing. And see, it's sold in I mean, it's probably made in the same factory in China. So let's hit reverse. Alright, now let's see if I can slow it down. There you go. See, you can even slow it down with this thing. You can slow it down, or you can speed it up. You can stop it. And like I say, you just mount your camera to this part right here. And it charges it by a USB port. It's got its own battery built in. Alright, now let me show you how it looks when you turn the wheels. Like say, if you were, I don't know, let's say you were a product reviewer and you wanted to show Look at that. Camera drifted down. Let's say you were a product reviewer and you wanted to show a knife. You could set it on the table and do this with it. And if some of you will notice the way my video is made, I use this dolly to create that the beginning of my video. And that was an experiment with this thing to see how it worked. Look, that thing, I bent it too much. There you go. Slow it down a little bit. Now these things need to be bent the same amount. See, it's just doing a burnout now for some reason. I think you got to have these bent the same amount, or it won't track properly. See, it's just a neat little toy. It's fun playing with that toy right there. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hope you had fun watching it. Maybe you picked up some tricks, some tips. I don't know. This is stuff that I personally learned from YouTube. The things I showed you I didn't know before. You know, there's a bunch of stuff I've come up with, but I tried to pick out the things that I saw on video because of YouTube and was like, wow, that is so cool. And there's probably a few other things in the past that I've learned. I mean, I've learned a whole lot from comments, but normally with a tag video, I will tag some people, but the thing is I don't know how many people is going to be up for doing this. And another problem is me being on YouTube for 10 years, I have subscribed to so many channels now that it's just a blur of everybody I'm subscribed to. So I know I've got a lot of video makers that are, you know, watch my videos. So if you're a video maker, okay, and you want to do the, you know, thanks for sharing 5 tag, tell me in the comments and I will put you in my description box as tagged, okay, because I'll put the description of the video and then I'll put the following are tagged, and then when you tell me who you are, I'll copy and paste your channel into my description box, okay, and then when you do your video, send it to me so I don't miss it if you can. Later on, put it in the comment section after it's filmed. And whoever you tag, if you've got some people in the mind to tag, you know, tag them and notify them. You know, tagging's not as easy now. It used to be easier because YouTube had a messaging system, and now there is no messages. The only way to contact somebody on YouTube is through their comment section. So anyway, if you want to do it, let me know. I'll put you in there. All right. So hopefully life's going to slow down a little bit. You know, holidays are gone, done and over with. Deer season's done and over with. They're finishing up the boat ramp. So hopefully we can get out and get back to normal, get back to some more Chef Dave's videos and some more shelter videos and things like that. And I got a couple of shelters that I want to build, and somebody asked for a sewing video. And you know, it's a funny thing, I've got a machete that I want to make a sheath for it, for my silky saw, so that I can carry a silky saw on my new machete I bought. So I may just make a video out of that. Till then, y'all have fun, y'all enjoy life. If you can, get out. If not, do something in the backyard, and we shall see you in the next one.